Miss Kristen here. Alright, today we're going to do a little ECA practice. So, you should have this big packet. ECA practice, don't pay attention, this is something else. But ECA practice. Now, I'm not going to do all of them, the ones where you have to actually write things out, because it would be a little tedious on the board, and you can't really read my writing anyway. So, alright, we're going to start with page 3, number 1. So, solving 5x plus 12 equals x minus 4. Alright, so we're solving for x. Generally, whenever you see x in a problem, you're usually going to solve for x anyway. So just always think to yourself, how do I get x completely by itself? So we have 5x plus 12 is equal to x minus 4. Now you might say, well, how am I going to get it by itself if it's two separate things? Well, it's because as long as it's like terms, since this is x to the first power, because there's a little imaginary 1 right there, but anything to the first power just means it's times 1, or it's just one of that item, really. So, and this is in a little imaginary 1 too, so they're like terms. So what we do is we subtract x from this side, and actually I'm going to use a different color, just to make sure. So we subtract x from this side, we subtract x from this side, because whatever you do to one side, you do to the other side. These completely cancel out. We never have to worry about it again. Now I have 5x minus x, and this is like an imaginary 1 right there too, but 1 doesn't do anything, so we don't worry about it. But we have a minus 1x, so we have 4x plus 12 is equal to negative 4. Next color. Alright, so now we want to get the numbers on this side, so I'm going to subtract 12 from both sides. This side cancels out, and now I have 4x is equal to negative 4 minus 12 is going to be a negative 16. Okay? Because a minus and a minus, because you're adding this, but it's still subtracting, so it's negative 16. So I have 4x is equal to negative 16. I'm going to divide by 4, because what you're going to do is you're going to do the opposite. If I have a multiplication right here, because there's a little imaginary dot, and that means multiply. So if I have multiply, then to get rid of it, I'm going to divide. And I have to do the same to both sides. So I'm going to divide by 4, divide by 4. This 4 and this 4 cancel out. I have x equals negative 16 divided by 4 is a negative 4. So if I look at my packet, letter A is negative 4, and we're good. And erase. Now remember, at any point in time in these videos, you can always stop as I tell you the problem and run through the problem by yourself, and then wait for me to go through it, just to check to make sure you're doing it right. Because just because you can see me do it doesn't mean that when it comes time for you to do it, that it'll come so easily. Alright, so it's all about practice. Math is always, always, always about practice. Alright, so number 2. I've got 2 times the quantity. Anything inside a set of parentheses is the quantity. 2 minus x is less than or equal to negative 3x minus 2. We're solving for x again. Alright, so we've got 2 times the quantity, 2 minus x, is less than or equal to negative 3x minus 2. Alright, the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to see this 2 right here, 2 quantities. I'm going to distribute my first 2 into this set right here. Alright, see my little arrows? I'm going to take 2 times 2, that's 4, and I'm also going to take 2 times negative x. Alright, so I'm going to negative 2x is less than or equal to negative 3x minus 2. Now, even though there's a less than or equal to sign here, doesn't mean we don't do the same steps as we do for an equal sign. Alright, so I'm going to say, if I bring the 3x over here, it'll make it an positive. It's going to make it a positive number. And I like positive numbers, especially when it comes to my variables. It's always better to have a positive number with your variable. So I'm going to add 3x to both sides. Next color. And I'm going to get 4 minus a negative 2x plus 3x is a positive x. So plus x is less than or equal to, those canceled out, so negative 2. Alright, that looks funny. I'm going to write it. Alright, there we go. For anybody who hasn't watched me on video before, I'm crazy, so just disregard that. Alright, so now I still want to get x by itself. This is a positive 4, so I'm going to subtract 4. Make that 0. Subtract 4 over here. I'm going to get x is less than or equal to negative 6, because a negative 4 and a negative 2 is negative 6. And that's my answer. So I'm going to look on my answer sheet. What do you know? Letter A is x is less than or equal to negative 6. And erase. Alright. Now number 3 is 5x minus 10y is equal to negative 40. We're going to solve for y. Solving for y versus solving for x is the same thing. It's just asking for a different letter. So this means that this time you're going to take y and you're going to try to make it by itself. All by itself. We'll walk through it. Here we go. Alright, so 5x minus 10y. Did I do it right? No, I'm already writing it down. Disregard. Okay, 5x minus 10y is equal to negative 40. Alright, and again I want to go for y. Now just because I have an x in here doesn't mean anything. At this point it's just another number to me. I want to get it away from the y. So to start this out, I'm going to subtract 5x from both sides. Okay. Now, looking at this, so these automatically cancel out. Now usually you would combine these, but since there's an x variable here, you're not going to. So it's going to be two separate items. So I'm going to have negative 10y is equal to negative 40 minus 5x. Okay? So see how I didn't subtract this from anything. I just added it to the equation. Let's see. Now I want to get the y by itself. I'm going to divide by negative 10. Now I have two numbers over here, so I have to divide each number by negative 10. So negative 10, negative 10. So these are going to cancel out. I don't have to worry about that now. And I'm going to have y equals, now negative 40 divided by negative 10 is a positive 4, because a negative divided by a negative is a positive. So 4. Now over here I have, now even though this is a subtraction, we see this as a subtraction, it still is a negative, because I could write it as plus negative 5x. Alright? So this right here is the same as minus 5x. So I'm going to erase that so we don't get too messed up here. So I'm going to see it as negative 5x divided by negative 10. Negative and a negative is a positive. So I got my positive there. Now 5 divided by 10, I can't divide 10 into 5. So I'm going to just reduce it as it is a fraction. So 5 and 10 has a common factor of 5. So over here on the side, I'm going to write 5 and 10. Now I can divide the numerator and the denominator by 5, and I get 1 over 2. Alright, so I looked at each of these numbers and I said which number, or what number can go into each of these equally. Alright, because I don't want nasty decimals if I don't have to have them. Way too complicated. We don't want to do that. But I look at this, and even though it doesn't look like a 5, it's a 5. Alright, so I've got 5 divided by 10. So I say 5 can go into both of those. I divide the numerator and the denominator by 5, and my answer is 1/2. So I come back over here. I can't forget about my x, but I have plus 1/2 x. Now I look at my sheet. Now they have it rewritten as x first, so it would actually look like this on your paper. But it's the same thing because both are positive. It doesn't really matter how you write it as long as it matches up with the right answer on this paper. And sure enough, letter C matches. So we're good. So number 3 is C. Alright. We are trucking along. Alright, so number 4, and again we're still on page 3, so this is number 4, It's the quantity 2x plus 3, even though there's not parentheses, because that's all together, and it's completely, like it's totally as a group divided by 4, I can say quantity, is equal to x divided by 4. So I'm going to write that out as 2x plus 3 divided by 4 is equal to x divided by 4. Now, looking at this, when you have what we could see as a fraction, because there's a numerator and a denominator, equal to a numerator and denominator, you can do something called cross multiplication. That's where I take the numerator of the left times the numerator of the right, the denominator of the right, and then I can take the denominator of the left times the numerator of the right. Now, it might sound a little complicated, but it's not. Just walk through it with me. This is how every problem like this is going to work out. So cross multiplying, meaning I'm going to take my left numerator times my right denominator. Now, I like to write the single number out front, but you don't have to. It doesn't really matter as long as they're separated properly. 2x plus 3 is equal to, and here's my 4 and x, 4 times x. All right, there we go. We're almost done. Okay, so I need another color. Here we go, green. So I'm going to distribute my 4 into my parentheses here. There's a car alarm going off outside. So I've got 4 times 2x, which is 8x, plus 4 times 3, which is 12, is equal to 4 times x, which is 4x. All right. Now this looks a little familiar, right? Okay, so I'm going to, let's see, there's already a number on this side. I want to make this as easy as possible. It's going to leave me with a negative variable, but we'll work it out. So I'm going to subtract 8x from both sides. These cancel out. And then I'm left with, shift it over. When you have one of these at home, it's really nice. All right, so I've got, these have canceled out. I have a positive 12 is equal to 4 minus 8 is a negative 4x. Negative 4x. Okay. So now I'll divide both sides by negative 4. These will cancel out. 12 divided by negative 4 is a negative 3. Negative 3 equals x. Now you won't always see the x on the right-hand side. It just kind of worked out this way, but it doesn't mean anything different. It still means that x is equal to negative 3. So I look at my paper. What do you know? Letter A, x is equal to negative 3. Yay! It's always a good sign when your answer at least matches one of the answers on the paper. All right, so shift. All right, so turning the page. Number 5, it says the formula A equals 1/2 base times height represents the area of a triangle. Where A represents the area, B is the base of the triangle, and H is the height of the triangle. Now what that means is I have my triangle here. It kind of looks like a triangle. We're close. Okay, so the base is the bottom here, and the height is this right here, from the base to the very, very tip of the triangle. Now this is actually supposed to be a right triangle. That's what I was going for, meaning that this line is straight up and down and comes to a point. It's easier to see like this. Now area of a triangle is the stuff inside. It means that if I was making like this board right here, the area of this board is the height times the width. But for a triangle, because it's shaped funny, it's 1/2 times the base times the height. So it's everything in here, and it's like I'm making a triangle board or something. I don't know, we're making something into a triangle. And the area formula is A equals 1/2 times base times height. Now these little dots, in case anybody haven't noticed them or haven't seen them before, represent multiply. So instead of writing a little x, I like to write the dot just because if you're using x in a formula, it's a little bit hard to separate. You want to make sure you got the right x in the right spot. So if you use a dot, it also means multiplication. You're good. You don't have to worry about missing anything. Okay. So that's That's my formula, and that's the triangle. Now it wants us to get h. So just like we solved for x and we solved for y, we're just going to solve for h. We just don't have any numbers. It's actually a little easier. So I'm just going to take my regular formula. A is equal to 1/2 base times height, and I'm solving for that h right there. So I need to get this 1/2 and the b on the other side. Now I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that 2. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 2. So I'm going to get 2a is equal to b times h. Now, just because it's 2 letters doesn't mean anything. They both represent a number somewhere. We just don't know what the number is yet. That's all it is. So I want to get h by itself, so I still divide because these are multiplied, and when they're multiplied, the opposite is divide, and that's how I get it to shift over. So I do b divided by b, so these sides cancel out, and then I divide this side by b. So my formula is going to be h is equal to 2a divided by b. Let's see if this is an option. Holy goodness, look at that. Letter D, B, oh wait, am I solving for B? I'm solving for B. Same thing. I'm so sorry. So it'll be B times H divided by H and divided by H. So B is equal to 2a divided by h. So you see the formula didn't change that much, but I solved for the wrong thing. I apologize. So, but D is b equals 2a over h. That is the right answer. Ooh, I'm crazy. Maybe I need to get some sleep. I've been moving all day. All right, we're going to pause now for this section, and then I'll keep recording some more. Bye, guys. Good night and sleep.